Welcome to the Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. On this week's episode, going maskless, whether Fox News wants us to or not. The California recall election is on. There are anti-trans and anti-voting rights bills happening all across the country. We're going to talk about all of this and more with our amazing special guest of panelists this week on the Read Down. I love that intro. I love that intro video was a gag. We included Biden and Kamala Harris when the the results first came in, just to gloat, and we just never took it down. But I'm Alex Mahajer. Thanks for joining the Read Down this week. Our beloved co-hosts Ebony Murphy-Root and Jonathan Welch are out this week, but in their stead, we've got an amazing panel for you guys. I'm so pleased to welcome to the program my friend and the editor-in-chief of 800 Democrat. Please welcome Rance Collins. Rance, how's it going?
Alex, we meet again.
We meet again. Why do we keep meeting under these circumstances? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm so glad to be on the show. I'm doing this as a favor to Alex because he's doing a favor for me and joining my bowling team.
Yes, so. I've joined the Merrill Strikes, and I don't know how to bowl, so it should be really fun. Also on the panel this week, he is the legislative action chair of the Stonewall Democratic Club, and also a dear friend. Please welcome to the program, Dan Halden.
Hello. Good to be with you.
How are you, Dan? Good day?
I'm not going bowling, but it's been a great day so far. Yes.
Well, we got to work on you yet. And she is an activist and an icon and a dear friend. Please welcome Jackie Steele.
Now I want to go bowling. Hi.
Hi, Jackie. Everyone. Jackie, has anyone ever told you that you have a name of maybe a Danielle Steele, leading romantic character, or maybe a drag queen?
So many people think that I am a leading romantic character. It's amazing that you would reference that. Yeah, I get mistaken all the time for just someone bareback, hair in the breeze. No, but I did discover there's a punk band by the name of Jackie Steele, and I went to their show. And
wow, you're their namesake. Well, you're my romantic lead, Jackie. I love you. Thank you guys for joining the program. We've got a lot to cover this week, and it is a busy week. This is the weekly Read Down, where we cover all of the latest hot topics and current events. And at the top of our list is this new update today from the CDC, which let us know that vaccinated Americans can now go outside maskless, unless in congested groups. So sporting events, outdoor concerts, they should still require masking, but the CDC saying today that we can congregate outdoors and it's okay. And they're also saying that there's increased evidence that the virus cannot be transmitted amongst vaccinated individuals. What are your guys' thoughts on this news? This is welcome news. I want to start with Rance.
I mean, it's incredible news. Of course, the very first reaction from the likes of Fox News and Tucker Carlson's nightly abomination is going to be that, oh my gosh, they just keep changing what they say. The CDC can't. I don't know who needs to hear this. Perhaps you guys don't know how research and science on something we know nothing about works, but this is a virus that is less than a year and a half old in our knowledge of it. And we've been learning in real time, not only how it's transmitted and what the safety precautions need to be, but also how we handle the virus in conjunction with vaccines. So if anybody out there is saying how can we trust the CDC because they've changed calm down. We learn things in real time. You always say the exact extreme of what you think needs to be done to keep from the virus from spreading, and then as you learn, you pull back. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Blessed be, I'm so glad the CDC has been extra cautious in its recommendations and not under recommending when we don't know things for sure yet. So I feel so confident in the leadership right now.
No, Rance, bigger question. Are you going to do something with this COVID beard? And do you have earplugs, like earrings in, or are those your headphones?
These are my headphones.
I was like, did you go punk rock and I didn't know? What's going on here?
These are my headphones so that you guys don't echo on my microphone.
Dan's beard is traditional. You trademarked that beard a long time ago. So
and I just I like how it's vibing. So anyway, keep it on. Dan, you talk about your beard now.
So I started. This goes back to at least 2014. So not to
consistency
I don't want to on the spot, Rance, but yeah, I mean this is several pandemics or epidemics.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, what do you think for anti-vaxxers who are going to protest this kind of news from the CDC either way? And are you heartened by this news by the CDC? Is your behavior going to change now that there's increased some more freedom for people who are vaccinated?
A, my behavior hasn't changed in 20 years, so don't look for that to happen. B, I'm wildly offended that nobody asked about my beard. I think I've done an amazing job plucking chin hair this entire pandemic, and I just want to take an ounce of credit. I think, what Rance was saying, you said two things that we should never expect from the other side of the aisle, right? Which is learn and pull back. They're not good at it. We shouldn't be expecting it at this stage.
They also don't pull out.
If only. I think that, I'm personally still cautious. You're lucky I'm not wearing a mask right now. I'm still, I think, going to kind of lean on the side of comfort. I think, look, they already weren't wearing it. They were already protesting. They're only protesting high-end places where no one's going to punch them in the face anyway. So it's really not that exciting or troublesome for me what anyone else is going to do in terms of protests and in regards to masks. But for me, I'm just going to continue to wear it and use common sense, which is if I don't know you that well, you shouldn't be that close. And let's just a few steps back on the whole for everybody, I think is a good call.
That's a rule that should be there for non-pandemics as well. To stay out of my face.
Life tips, back it up a step. Yeah.
You're here and I need you here. And Dan, I'm going to go ahead and refer to you as our resident policy wonk. And, you've got a brain full of that policy knowledge. And I want to turn this to you. So the Dodger Stadium announced recently that they will allow people to go to concerts at the Dodger Stadium, but only if they're vaccinated. If you ain't vaxxed, you ain't coming in. Do you think that kind of approach from companies and corporations and even major sporting events like at the Dodger Stadium, do you think that helps incentivize vaccinating people? And will that get people who are reluctant? Because now we know the final frontier here is that soon the supply is actually going to outpace the demand. Now we're getting to the second half of the country where there's more reluctancy. So how do we address that?
I think that can help. Honestly, I think the most effective thing is, and this gets a little bit to one problem that we're now having, and you just sort of referenced this, is the most effective thing is when other people in your network, in your circle, and the walks of life in which you travel, is when they are getting it, and the vast majority of people are getting through it fine. That's not to say that there haven't been some terrible circumstances, because there have been, but by and large, we know enough now. I read that there, I think, have been 1 billion doses given out across the world or something like that. I mean, we've now have hundreds of millions of cases, literally, and we know that it's safe. We know that it is effective. And so I know that in my own personal experience, having been involved with some of this stuff, that it really makes it, what really incentivizes people is when other people that they know, whether it's coworkers or friends or family, they're getting it, and that helps some folks get over their reticence. On the other hand, yes, I mean, I can't wait to go to a baseball game again. I know,
so much.
Totally mask.
Yeah. So mask for mask.
But
it's a pun. It's a pun.
Right.
Okay.
But I
hasn't been used at all.
People are looking forward to live music and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I mean, we can probably approach this in a variety of different ways. I am hoping whatever it is that we can get over that threshold that gets us to that critical mass sooner rather than later, because we're ready to go to a concert. I mean, I am. I'm sure you guys are too.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Keep posting those vaccine selfies and that kind of thing. I mean, like, that sounds like, I know some people are annoyed by that stuff, but I think it helps. The more people who are getting out there and like, look at me with my vaccine card and I'm so excited and blah, blah, blah. I think that stuff that could help. Maybe you only think, well, nobody follows me, but you could have one person who you're friends with on Facebook or whatever who is hearing misinformation or is in the middle of nowhere in your hometown, who is hesitant about getting the vaccine, and just seeing you act normal after the vaccine or be excited about it could be what gets them to go get it. So
yeah, I agree. I think, I'm starting to see people now go, I don't care that you got back. I don't want to see your vaccine selfie. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? People that were making posts about people that were driving in the car with their masks on? I'm like, let them just keep the mask on. If that's their comfort zone. Okay. Also, I drive in the car. I like to scream, sing at stoplights. I like the windows down. I want an audience. It's all I'm going to get is a stoplight. So I keep the mask on for other safety. You don't know what people need to do in their life, but we should not be discouraging it at any time yet. Wear the mask, however you can get them to wear it, and get the vaccine and encourage it at all costs.
Yeah.
And if you feel sick in the future, wear a mask. That's a lesson from this pandemic, Yeah.
I'm a fan of spreading my respiratory droplets in as wide a area as possible, engaging with other human beings. So for me, it's important that I engage with other. I've had enough of your attitude, Dan.
Right now, that's all of Long Beach, actually.
I'm getting nervous.
I did not sign up for this. Okay. But,
I want to be in the car with Jackie, and what are we going to sing? And will it be on the way to meet Rance and Alex for bowling?
A, yes. B, Alanis Morissette's You Want to Know. C, I'll pick you up in an hour and a half.
The entire Jagged Little Pill album would be preferable for me, but that's fine. Let's work through it top to bottom in working order. But, the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh my God. What we should be what we should be listening to, because of thankfulness over getting our vaccine, is we should be listening to Saint Dolly.
Yes.
Okay.
Who is that? Just kidding. Relax.
Oh my God.
Just calm your gay heart. Calm your gay heart. It's okay.
Every day in a 5-mile radius explodes.
The entire western part of the continent just split off.
Right.
But the Hollywood Bowl is open this weekend in June. Not this weekend. this summer, June 15th. It'll open up, and the EU saying they will accept vaccinated Americans into their country. So lots of incentives for people to get vaccinated. But things are going particularly badly in India, where the virus has really spread exponentially, and it's becoming a dire situation there. So the president has announced that he will support providing aid to India and the components of building the vaccine in order to try to get more individuals in India vaccinated. From a public policy standpoint, from an international relations standpoint, this is pretty good policy, I think, because the world really, until the entire world is vaccinated up to herd immunity levels, which the CDC says is about 75 to 80%, then really we're not going to get back to normal. There will always be a threat. There will always be a risk. So what are your guys' thoughts on this news that we're going to be supporting India's vaccine efforts?
I totally support it. Absolutely. I mean, they have a horrible situation there right now with like hundreds of thousands of new cases a day. And there seems to be some evidence that those numbers are underreported. So, and it's a country with 1 billion people in it. So that, there's a lot of people who are at risk. Their medical system is really, really, really struggling. And so, I mean, it's a globalized world. The world, in many ways is smaller than it ever has been before. We gotta, we have such a supply now in our country, and I think it would be incumbent upon us anyway to help out a friend and neighbor who is in the situation that they're in. So I think it's a very, very good thing.
I mean,
Good.
it's a global, it's a smaller world than it's ever been, with more people than we've ever had.
Yeah.
And with the way that variants can be produced with COVID-19, you have to be in a prepared situation where you're basically in a race against time. Because if we can beat the development of variants around the world, that means there's a larger likelihood that the vaccines we currently have will remain effective. And so what we have to do is we have to get as many produced and available as quickly as possible around the world. You know, it's when you help other people, you help yourself too. Situation.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, it's the American way, right? This is who we are. This is what we do. And I think we've spent so many years hearing rhetoric, you know, in the other direction, and people trying to break us down to this, you know, in this microcosm of selfishness. And the reality is, this is what we do. These are the moments where you're proud to be American. These are the moments where you say, yeah, this is exactly what it's all about. And this administration has made a commitment to repair our global relationships. And this is what that looked like. It's happening. It's in action. And I support it entirely. People are in need and we step up.
Right. When President Biden, I'll just say when President, I like saying that. When President Biden was running, and then when he got into office, he said the message that he was giving to our allies and to the rest of the world is that America is back. This is the type of thing that other countries have been, the type of leadership that other countries have been waiting for us to exhibit over 4 horrible and awful years.
You know, and honestly, I think it kind of extends a little bit farther than that too. I think that there got to be, in large part because of actions by the Bush administration, by lingering feelings over things like Vietnam, there was this feeling as if the way that America was exerting its power as a superpower was by just intervening with other countries in a disruptive way. And I think almost so far, the Biden administration is almost redefining what it means to be a superpower. Being a superpower means that you help your neighbors. And I think that that's a beautiful message.
Beautifully said. I am pleased to see us returning to a position of, you know, as best we can, really moral leadership in the world. I think that you can argue that we've struggled with that, you know, regardless of who's president over the last, you know, couple centuries, but to at least take a position of moral clarity in the ways that we aid our neighbors. And being a superpower means helping others, not just disrupting and seeking out our financial interests in other countries. So I'm very, very pleased to see that. And, you know, as of right now, 29% of Americans are now fully vaccinated. 42.5% have received at least 1 dose. And we know that just 1 dose gives you a good level of protection.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish it, get your second dose. And as we go into this next topic, I want this to remain at the top of your minds as we go into the next topic, this fact that California's new infection rate is now the lowest in the entire continental United States, thanks in no small part to Governor Gavin Newsom, who did the tough thing early on when he had to. And we've struggled with the virus in this state. At one point, it was very difficult. We got hit hard. But right now, the lowest new infection rate in the entire continental United States, which takes us to our next topic. The California gubernatorial recall election is unfortunately on. As of yesterday, the Republican-led effort to recall the governor obtained the necessary signatures to make it onto the ballot. So it's moving forward, and it's supported almost entirely by corporate interests, Republicans, former Trump campaign staffers and Trump administration staffers, and QAnon conspiracy theorists. And what are your guys' thoughts about this recall? I personally didn't actually believe that the recall was actually going to happen. And it was due in some part to a judge's ruling that extended the amount of time the recall effort was allowed to have to obtain these signatures, that it's even moving forward. So it's sort of like, but what are your guys' thoughts as we head into what is now going to be a tedious recall election? Dan, I'm looking at you. You're all giving that knowing smile.
I have so many thoughts. So let me just say, my first paid job in politics many moons ago was working for Gavin Newsom when he was the mayor of San Francisco. He was running for lieutenant governor. So I have a personal, connection here, but I will put that aside. Technically, our system in this state, if you get the sufficient number of signatures, there is a mechanism for a recall. That's the way that it is. However, this is a laughable waste of time. When you think about the timing, when you think about all of the things that are going on, and where we're at this moment in time, at this moment in our history, it's just a big waste of time. That is even before you start to do the political prognosticating of well, is it going to work or is it going to happen? And then you look at some of the folks that have put themselves forward. I think we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I mean, we have an election next year. And as far as I understand, it's not even entirely clear to me yet when this is going to be. It will probably be at the end of the year, but it might not be at the end of the year. So, it's probably going to be within a year or less than a year, certainly less than a year of the primary for the 2022 gubernatorial election. And so it's just kind of like, why are we putting the state through this? Hundreds of millions of dollars is what it will cost. And it's just going to be a waste of everybody's time when we have an election, a real election, literally right around the corner.
Yeah, Jackie, thoughts on this bogus recall?
I mean, it's bogus. We all. I think we're all going to be aligned here that this power grab. We knew it was coming. We know what to expect. There's going to be a lot of big flash bang booms from the Republicans. We knew it was going to happen. It's already happening. It's happening across the country, but they want California. There's no two ways about it, right? So they are going to do whatever they can to disrupt, to take back. But ultimately, it's just a massive waste of money, a massive waste of time. We still have so much work we need to be doing for the pandemic. There's so many other issues we need to be dealing with right now. And it's just a really gross waste of time and money. And it's pathetic.
Yeah, and the Gavinator, Governor Gavin Newsom.
We have the Governator. So.
The Gavin Newsom's already biting back. This is some video that was released this morning by the governor, sort of biting back at this recall effort and calling it what it is. Let's see a little bit of that, and I want to get Brance's feedback.
Who's behind the partisan recall of Governor Gavin Newsom? Anti-vaccine QAnon extremists, violent white supremacists like the Proud Boys who attacked our nation's capital on January 6th, and the same right-wing Republican politicians who supported Donald Trump's attempt to overturn the election. Of course, paid for by the Republican National Committee. Instead of helping fight the pandemic, national Republicans are coming to fight Californians. Stop the Republican recall. It's a power grab.
It's a power grab. Rance, thoughts? Is this the appropriate messaging? Is this effective for you?
Yeah, of course it is. That's exactly the truth of what's happening right now. It's as both Dan and Jackie said, this is a complete and utter waste of time. There was a period there where Gavin Newsom was catching a lot of heat because of the incident of him eating out at the restaurant with the people, and then right after he announced the loosening of restrictions, at first people were upset when the loosening of restrictions happened, and then or when the tightening of restrictions happened, and then people were upset when loosening happened. People thought it was a little too early. But the last, I think, 2 months, Gavin Newsom has been killing it. He's been absolutely killing it in office, obviously, as represented by how well the numbers are on Californians getting vaccinated, on how low the positivity rate here is, and how well we're doing in comparison to literally every other state in terms in terms of the pandemic, the recall now looks so silly and stupid. And I think it's honestly going to become something of a joke amongst regular people, because it's so clear that he has been an effective governor. And ultimately, he's going to look, I think, even stronger after this is all over, because this will play off, as that commercial says, as a complete waste of resources. And that is something the Democrats are going to keep harping on. It gives so much ammunition to the Democratic Party to show how partisan politics the Republicans play, how much they care more about dragging people into the mud than they do about solving actual policy. This is a gift, I think, to the Democratic Party, just really exposing the Republicans for who they are, and it's going to go absolutely nowhere. Gavin Newsom is going to easily defeat this recall situation, and this is the stupidest thing.
Well, that's just if, as Elizabeth says, Democrats have to focus and make sure they get their people out to vote. But I'll note all Californians will receive their ballots by mail, because we're still doing that here in the state of California. And look, here's my deal. Dan, I met then Mayor of San Francisco, Gavin Newsom, when I was in college up at UC Berkeley. And I was like charmed out of my mind by the man. And I was like, he's going to be the governor of this state one day. And, I think so he had dinner, and it was a lame move, and he apologized for it. I mean, it's like, that's what we're going to, that is going to be the reason we spend millions of dollars to recall him. I'll also note, Governor Gavin Newsom just announced that the state of California is going to ban fracking in this state. He is joining this climate change revolution. The president has said that this is going to be one of the single most important focal points of his administration. The Department of Justice who was saying, somebody was saying, it was the Department of Justice. Somebody was saying that this is going to be the focal point of their department. I don't recall now, but it's extremely important that everybody stays woke about this and pays attention to the recall, because it's when we're not paying attention that these who we consider to be a joke ends up winning, and we've seen it happen.
Yeah, we've been through that. Let me also just say, if I remember correctly, I believe that they started this effort before the pandemic began. This is just like a thing, that they just try to do because they are unhappy. So he got sworn in January of 2019. The pandemic began in March of 2020. So they started it in some form or another before the pandemic began, which means they started it basically right after he became governor. None of this makes any sense at all. It just doesn't make any sense. So, but I agree with Rance. I mean, we can't take anything for granted, but I do think I'm happy to see them be so aggressive in pushing back against this so early on, so that we're not caught flat-footed. We can't take anything for granted, but I believe that the California 2021 is different than the California that voted for a recall in 2003, and I would expect him to prevail.
Yeah. I think, and make no mistake about what you referenced with climate change and fracking. That absolutely plays a role in this. I think, is it something they've tried to do and continue to try to do? Absolutely. But look at all that we have accomplished in this time. We are starting to change systems to bring these, systemic issues to their knees. It is terrifying for these people, and they will do everything they can to regain their power, hang on to their power. They are literally white knuckling right now, trying to grasp it. So, and I think there were some really good comments. Registering new voters, we have to stay on that. We have to continue with that. I think to Elizabeth's point as well, making sure people come out and vote, because one of the things that was mentioned was, this is a joke. It's a joke. Well, we thought Trump was a joke, and we laughed. And I think what happened there was everybody thought this will never happen. Those of us, you think you're above the fray, and it starts to become too much of a joke. People aren't taking it seriously. We're losing the numbers, and it's happened before. So we have to stay vigilant. We cannot let that happen again.
Yeah, look, Rance and I were at we're sitting on the floor of the Javits Center in New York City on November 6th, 2016 at Hillary's election night party. The whole day we were running around screaming, "Yes, Madam President." I mean, I don't ever want to be in that position again. And the Trump administration showed us what the Republican ideology has become, and they've embraced, and that's terrifying. And when we talk about a power grab, Jackie, you make a great point. Look, Democrats won the 2020 presidential election. They won 2 U.S. Senate seats that shifted the dynamic of power in American government fundamentally for at least the next 2 years. It was a devastating blow to Republicans, and their response is to, in 28 states, pass anti-trans legislation in just this year, in over 300 pieces of anti-voting rights legislation passed by Republican state legislatures across the United States just this year. In Oklahoma, the governor just signed a law that prevents women from getting access to abortions, effectively makes it impossible for them to get access to abortions. And now they're funding a Republican recall here in this state. And then, just even with the U.S. Census Bureau today, learning that the results of that Census Bureau will take about 5 seats away from Democrats in the House of Representatives, including one from our very own state of California. And that is due in large part to the Republican obstruction of that census, the way they decided to try to block it, to make sure it was undercounted, that not everyone was counted. I don't think that census was an accurate reflection of what our population looks like, because the Trump administration purposefully wanted to achieve this result. So this is a power grab. It's also a death rattle, and we can make sure it continues to be a death rattle all the way to the grave if we stay alert and stay activated and stay focused on our objectives. So Jonathan Welch wants you to know this recall election will cost $400 million, could cost $400 million, and that Newsom won with 61% of the vote in 2018 as the state has continued to trend bluer. So this, as you said, Dan, the state looks differently than it did when we recalled.
We need it as blue as this sweater. Okay.
Yes, and that is a lovely periwinkle blue.
I will never go out of style.
No, it's lovely. And we need it as dark
matches
blue
your
as
eyes
fake
quite
brick.
well too, sir.
Well, thank you.
Look at you, Dan. And you look sun-kissed today. I love this for you. I love this for you. So, but in further recall news, the Republicans have launched campaigns in the event the recall passes, including none other than highly qualified star of reality television and vehicular manslaughter artist Caitlyn Jenner, who announced last week that she will run for California state governor. And speaking of vehicular manslaughter, she tweeted out something that I couldn't help but respond to last week about attacking Governor Newsom's district attorneys for releasing criminals back to the streets. I want to show you this tweet right now. See if we can get it up. This is your reminder that Caitlyn Jenner literally killed someone in the street 6 years ago, and it was released by a district attorney. So Caitlyn, perhaps not the best campaign strategy, and also her photo on her campaign website is of her in the car that she used when she killed that person 6 years ago in Malibu. So was that a low blow? I feel like it just needs, people don't remember. Like, people don't realize that this happens.
No, people need to remember that happened. First, I don't know who's not paying attention. Just the optics alone. Who approved that message? Who said, this is the campaign? This is the image we're using. It's tragic that even got passed, that everyone thinks it's acceptable. But this just goes to show the level we're dealing with, that she would think it's acceptable, that her team would. It's trash.
This is not serious. I mean, it's something that I always try to talk to people about. And I think if you want to run for office, whatever the office you want to run for office. But it's really important to remember these are jobs. These are jobs. These are complicated positions that have all sorts of things that you have to do and things that you have to be aware of, and challenges and complications. They are jobs. We are hiring someone, or not, hopefully not hiring anyone new, but we're hiring someone to do a very, very complicated job. And Caitlyn Jenner, whoever she is, whatever she is, she doesn't know anything. She has no relevant life experience to be able to effectively perform this job, period. So it doesn't surprise me that she has, no idea what she is doing when it comes to her campaign strategy. But, she doesn't have any idea how to do this job. Why would we hire her for this job at this time in our history?
Yeah, I want to turn this over to you guys. If, we're an LGBTQIA plus organization that supports queer candidates and causes, and including candidates who are trans. And do you think that this puts certain people in our community in a tough position of having to abandon support of those kinds of candidates? And I want to clear that up now once and for all. Jackie, you're shaking your head.
Not at all. Every trans leader that I've spoken to, communicated with, even just seen on socials, Caitlin has never been a representative of our community. Caitlin has never been a leader of the trans community. That's what's being messaged out because that's the convenient message of the day, right? And that's okay. That's like saying Trump cares about people. Never been true. That's the message of the day, right? So it's really just the messaging. It doesn't matter. I don't think it puts our community in any different position with Caitlyn Jenner than we have been throughout, just Caitlyn being a Republican and supporting a president policies that were extremely damaging to the LGBTQ plus community and all of her trans siblings. It's same old, and here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Rance.
I will say that she doesn't represent the community, but I imagine that she does put some trans people in an uncomfortable position. With her having this type of platform and supporting things that we inherently disagree with, I think that I would hate to have to answer for any of the bigotry that she spews just on a platform, and that anybody might associate being trans with what her policy positions are. So I think that. I think it's very selfish of her to do this. Honestly.
I think look, at the end of the day, I think this looks like another rich white lady centering herself in problems that are not her own. So I don't know how wildly concerned on a community level, but I understand your point.
Yeah. Well, it's like, why? What brilliant thing have you been doing that is relevant to running the state of California?
That's not running over people in the state of California.
Oh my God.
You can't stop yourself.
I just can't. But and to make this Republican recall even more sort of just a total dumpster fire, today we learned that this gentleman is also considering a serious run for California governor, none other than actor Randy Quaid, very seriously considering it. So it's a real who's who.
That's Randy Quaid?
That's Randy Quaid.
That's what he looks like right now?
That's
wow.
Oh my.
So
never looked better. That's great.
I will say Independence Day is a great movie. It's a classic.
Was Randy Quaid in Independence Day?
Randy Quaid is in Independence Day. He's the pilot. He saves the day at the end, or helps save the day at the end.
Are you talking about Bill Pullman?
No. Watch Independence Day. He flies into the spaceship at the end. He sacrifices himself. Spoiler alert, but you've had 20 minutes.
Bruce Willis. I think we're crossing.
Do we really need to hire someone based on the qualification of being in a disaster movie? That in alone seems like a bad idea. Kind of like how the Oscars thought it was a brilliant idea to hire the guy who directed Contagion to produce the Oscars. So I mean,
time to talk about that. I can't.
We don't have Oscar time. We don't have enough.
We're not on Oscar. We're not on Oscar time. We're not.
We don't want an excruciatingly 3-hour show. Right here today.
The next thing we'll talk about will be Best Picture, and then we'll save some other things to talk about after. I mean,
because to be really tasteless and take advantage of something that we shouldn't.
Yeah, right. Which didn't even end up working, but okay.
Nope. Okay. And then Anthony Hopkins will post a video to help us out tomorrow.
On like a windy bluff in Wales. Yeah. This is Anthony Hopkins. I'm finishing up the read down from last night.
Oh no.
Maybe we can get
That's Anthony. Why
is Anthony Hopkins? Is that Anthony Hopkins? I don't know. Might as well be. But either way, Caitlyn Jenner's candidacy is not a positive representation for the LGBTQ plus community. I think we can all agree on that. In other news, another news. What's up with me today? It's Freudian slips. In other news, President Biden is going to address a joint session of Congress tomorrow night in what will be his first State of the Union-like address. It's not technically the State of the Union, but it will resemble one because it's his first year in office, to talk about his accomplishments and some of the challenges that he's run into. You know, primarily 200 million shots administered in his first 100 days. He's far outpaced his original goal of 100 million shots. And the COVID-19 stimulus bill, which has been transformational. And he's probably going to start to try to plug this infrastructure bill, which Democrats want to get passed before their summer recess, because Democrats are maybe a little concerned about a major piece of legislation passing in an election year. So we're hearing that many Republicans are planning on boycotting this address, which will focus heavily on selling that infrastructure plan and celebrating the American Rescue Plan achievements. Are you guys going to be watching? What are you guys' thoughts? Are you excited? What are your takeaways from Biden's first 100 days?
Yes, we'll all be watching.
Get together. Yeah.
I'm already there. I'm already
At the bowling alley. At the bowling alley.
Yeah, while
Please,
you're bowling,
please, both Kamala and Nancy right behind him, over it.
I have thought about that so much because I remember how big of a deal it felt, how big of a deal it was during Obama's first address to a joint session of Congress. And, you know, to have a black man and a woman there together, and now to have two women and one woman of color, it's just like, it's after having a look at Trump for so long. I mean, it's just there you go. It's wonderful. I think it's wonderful, and again, these are jobs. These are complicated jobs. I think overall, Joe Biden has done a fantastic job over his first 100 days. I mean, one of the things also that I keep thinking about that is so refreshing, and I didn't realize that this could be something that could feel so amazing, but I'm not thinking about him all the time. I'm not like waking up and it's like, he tweeted something ridiculous in the middle of the night, and there are, the stock market is crashing and there are crazy things. It's like, he's the president, and sometimes I think about it. I think about it, often, or I'm reading about it, but like, I'm not spending my entire day in dread or in agony. I'm like going and living my life, and I think overall he's doing a very good job.
Speak for yourself. I'm consumed by Joe Biden all day, every day. I can hardly
But we love that about you.
We do, and I knew that. I knew that, and I still agreed to do this show. So that means I must love you. I think he's done an incredible job. I think he's doing exactly what he said that he would do. He's keeping his word. He's also doing everything he can to reach across the aisle and do all of those things. So the fact that the reaction is a boycott is not super surprising. The fact that that's the reaction that we're getting. You can only say so long that they don't want to do it. They don't want to work with us. Well, the proof is in the pudding, and here we are. And this is what he's aiming to do. And so obviously, seeing who's on the dais, I'm overwhelmed and thrilled to the bone. But overall, I think he's doing the job that he set out to do with very little drama and nonsense. And that is a beautiful thing to behold.
Yep. And NPR compiled a list of everything that he has accomplished, that he promised he would do in his first 100 days. And it's pretty comprehensive. A lot of the challenges that he's run into are on immigration, and then on legislation that's not pertaining to the budget. That's not a tax and spend piece of legislation. So this is your reminder that Joe Biden cannot get accomplished his major legislative goals unless Democrats eliminate or reform the filibuster. Okay. And we talk about power grab. Someone said to me today, well, then this recall is a power grab. So it's just the same thing. Democrats grabbing power from Republicans back and forth, and no one ever gets anything done. And I was like, I object. Look at Joe Biden's proposals for what we get done via legislation: the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, the For the People Act, the John Lewis Civil Rights Act, climate change legislation, the $15 minimum wage. These big, bold pieces of progressive legislation that Republicans will obstruct, and then down the line say, "See, the Democrats didn't do anything; they never got anything done." And the one thing I'm glad about Joe Biden, really glad, is that he is committed to bipartisanship, but he's also willing to say, we're going to go ahead and move on without you because we don't got much time left to spare.
Well, he learned, I think he learned from some of the mistakes, admirable mistakes, but mistakes that President Obama, who also by and large, in my opinion, was also a very good president, but some of the mistakes that they made in their first year, especially, and trying to do their recovery package. The other thing that I think is just interesting about Biden is I was trying to think, because I like presidential trivia and history and stuff. And I don't think that we've ever elected a president with this amount of experience, all of these decades of experience in Washington, and anything even close to that ever in our history. That has never, ever happened. And I think it's just interesting in such a short period of time to see it pay off in such a quick and bold and decisive way. I mean, he knows the machinations of this job. He knows Washington. There is a value to that. Everybody, often Americans throughout history fall in love with the outsider candidate. We elect a lot of governors. We elected number 45 sort of somehow. But there is something to be said, especially in a moment of crisis, someone who really just came in, knows what the job is, knows what he wants to do, knows what he's doing, and is being, very effective at it.
Especially when we, in 2016, passed over somebody for being, and I quote news media critique when I say this, over-prepared.
Mm-hmm. God forbid.
Over-prepared.
Oh, that one still bugs me, I got to tell you.
Oh my God.
And speaking of over-prepared, Tucker Carlson, our favorite. Just a joy. He's been a little bit deranged lately. It's getting a lot of attention. He's been on his show sort of
what happened to
acting
you
a little.
two?
Oh, we got in a fight years ago and we haven't talked since. I got banned from his show. Fun fact for all of our viewers, I'm not allowed back on the Tucker Carlson show. But and I wear it like a badge of pride. So I'm fine. But Tucker Carlson has been going on air saying some really crazy things. A couple weeks ago was the great replacement theory that white people are being replaced by immigrants and black people, that's the Democrats' agenda, which is a crazy white nationalist conspiracy theory. And now here's what he had to say about masks and wearing masks. Tucker Carlson, everybody.
We did give in. This grotesque version of Halloween went on for more than a year, and it's still going on. Not even Tony Fauci still pretends that masks are medically necessary. Instead, masks are purely a sign of political obedience, like Kim Il-sung pins in Pyongyang. We wear them because we have to. The only people who wear masks voluntarily outside are zealots and neurotics. How neurotic are they? Well, we know. A Pew survey from last March found that 64% of white Americans who classify themselves as liberal or very liberal have been diagnosed with an actual mental health condition. And you see them everywhere when you walk down the street in any major city. If you dare to go on foot from Union Station to the Capitol, for example, in Washington without wearing a mask, angry Biden voters will snort at you in judgment. How could you? They're saying from behind the gauze. How could you? That's the question we should be asking of them in return. The rest of us should be snorting at them first. They're the aggressors. It's our job to brush them back and restore the society we were born in. So the next time you see someone in a mask on the sidewalk or on the bike path, do not hesitate. Ask politely but firmly, would you please take off your mask? Science shows there is no reason for you to be wearing it. Your mask is making me uncomfortable.
Is making me uncomfortable.
First of all, the idea that a man in that shirt and tie combo could make the Halloween costume, I was like, that's the disgusting Halloween costume. Who dressed you? Are you out of your mind? Did your stylist quit? What is going on? Also, how hot was the guy in the image?
Yeah, with the mask.
I know, right? I was thinking, hi, sir.
They have picked a healthier looking person to say that I'm like, that looks like the image of health and the life you want to be living. But okay.
Yeah, weird. Hashtag goals.
Yeah.
Also, dude, we have seen your yearbook photo now, which I'm sure you guys discussed. And we know that you have had the same hairstyle since the 1980s. Don't you think that maybe...
It wasn't.
Well, it was 1991.
It wasn't a thing
now. Now, to be fair, your haircut was almost in style for 20-year-olds when Zac Efron was first big. You weren't 20 at the time.
When Justin
so
Bieber was first on the scene.
Right. That's true. I'm sorry. My point of reference is Zac Efron.
Yeah. Oh, that's always a good point.
But yes. Regardless, the hairstyle has never been appropriate for your age at any point in time in your history, no matter what age you were. So, sir, I don't know. Maybe get your hair cut.
Nor has listening to Tucker Carlson. That's never, ever been an appropriate thing to do with your time. Also, he was like, from behind the gauze. What does he wear? What do they even think masks are?
They don't. They have no idea. Elizabeth is right. You being uncomfortable is your problem. It's. I think with Tucker Carlson, the thing that I always think is really important to remember, and I don't remember the details of why they were in court to begin with, but Fox News, under oath in court, swore, "Oh well, we don't expect people to take him literally or to believe that what he's saying is true. We're expecting people to believe rightfully that it's nonsense." So I think whenever talking about him, thinking about him, which I don't do very often, but at least right now, it's just that's like the disclaimer. They should have that disclaimer like on the screen whenever he is on air, since that's what Fox News evidently thinks of their own viewers.
Well, and the problem is that people watch this program, and Tucker Carlson recites verbatim white nationalist propaganda talking points. He's talking about restoring our society to the way that it is supposed to be. What he's talking about is restoring us to a majority white society led by conservatives with Christian conservative values. That's what he's talking about.
White cis male led society.
He's constantly
straight, white cis male.
He's constantly whistleblowing. He's dog whistling to white nationalists on this program, and I think it's worthy of note.
It's like an air raid siren.
That's his base, right? So there's nothing surprising. But if you can hearken that back to the Caitlyn Jenner quote, this is an extremely important thing to note. Look at that quote. Look at what she is saying. Look at what another Republican is saying. This is the messaging we're getting. What Gascon is doing is not releasing criminals or thugs. What we're trying to do is lessen the criminalization of Black and brown people on the basis of them being Black and brown in this country. And because we're doing that, this is the reaction we're getting from these people. So we have to also recognize it's here, it's in our backyard, it's got a rainbow bumper sticker on the vehicle. It is everywhere we look, and we have to continue to call out that level of racism. We have to continue to fight that, and we have to continue to work to try to get our justice system to actually serve justice for everyone instead of criminalizing Black and brown people.
I think that you just heard the call in your.
It's the air siren Dan was talking about.
The air siren.
We're running out of time, guys. It's that time of the week. It is that time. It's time. Why do I keep saying that? It's time to open up the library. The library is now open. This is our chance to get on our soapbox, to take a moment, to get something off our chest, speak from the heart, read someone for filth, if that is what you are want to do. I'd like to start this week with none other than Jackie Steele. Jackie, who would you like to read this week? I want to start with a spicy one.
I'm going to read America. First, I want to give a shout out to Kelsey, who put defund racism. Yes, all day, every day. So fight it everywhere you can. And hopefully we could share some links for people to get involved. I would like to call out gatekeepers and roadblockers. I think, we hear so much about, and I'll say this as we're gearing up into the Pride months, and, everybody wants to slap a rainbow flag on everything and have pride. I want to remind us to be pride worthy all year long. I want to remind us to stand up for queer voices and queer folks having space and having access. And then also when it comes to standing for things, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's standing with women, whether it's, LGBTQ plus and all of the intersectionality between, What does that look like in real life? How do you action that in your real life? You do that with your time and you do that with your dime, right? You do that with opportunity. You do that by creating space. You do that by making sure and insisting and demanding that there are seats at the table to do that. And when we're shouting out people like, RBG, and we're shouting out Marsha P. Johnson and all these people, remember the roadblocks. Remember the struggles. They were fought every step of the way, all of their lives. Marsha P. Johnson didn't have a cakewalk of a life. It was a struggle and it was a fight. So when you say that name, make sure that you are supporting your Black trans siblings, our queer community in every way that you possibly can every day. And if you don't know how to get involved, that's okay. It's understandable. Reach out and ask. And if you don't know who to ask who to ask. It's very simple. But get involved, support local government, support local community action, support Black and brown folks, support women, and support queers in the real way with your time, with your dime, and by taking action every single day.
Honey, with your, yes, honey, with your time and with your dime. Yes.
Oh my God.
I love Jackie Steele. Oh my God. Rance Collins, who would you like to read this week?
Okay, I'm gonna veer just slightly off of politics, or kind of into it, but out of it. Every single year after, I know I dogged on the Oscars earlier, but every single year after the Oscars, there's always this contingent of people that are like, Hollywood's just so political. I don't want to listen to him. I'm turning off this crap. I'm not going to watch this show. It's so stupid. All these people handing them awards and all this stuff. I don't know who doesn't realize this, but the reason why an award show like that exists is because it is a promotional tool to get people to watch movies, and movies each production employs hundreds of people. The entertainment industry is one of the largest industries in the country, and basically the entire purpose of an award ceremony is to energize people to watch a product that helps supply a lot of jobs. And so, just so you know, art is work is art, and whenever you get the opportunity to do so, there are a ton of movie theaters throughout the country that are hurting right now. And the entire activity and purpose of film is to be seen in a darkened theater on a big screen right in front of you. So when you feel safe and when you are able to in your community, please, please, please go buy a ticket at a movie theater that supports local theaters, that supports jobs, both in the small theaters that operate throughout the country, in the big chains that employ hundreds of and thousands of people, and in the film industry, which is a whole heartbeat of cities like Los Angeles and Atlanta and up in Canada and Toronto. It sounds like people think that Hollywood is this certain thing, but actually what Hollywood is it's a town where a lot of people have jobs doing something cool, and every single person in the country, every time they turn on Netflix, is supporting that. So please go to your movie theater and support that so the art can continue to exist.
All right. Thank you, Rance, and rest in peace to the ArcLight.
Somebody buy it, please, please, please,
somebody.
please.
Dan Halden, who would you like to read this week?
Well, Jackie Steele said basically what I was going to say better than I could possibly ever say it. But I have been thinking a lot about, there are folks out there who equate activism or advocacy with just, like tweeting something, maybe tweeting a lot of things. It is so unbelievably important to recognize the distinction between those things. And that if you want things to happen, you got to put yourself in those positions to help make those things happen, to effectuate, the change or whatever it is that you want to see. Jackie said something that I get that I've been asked the question a lot, from people who are like, well, I want to be involved in politics, or like, I want to, how do you do it? I want to do something. And there is not a magic, there's not a magic formula. There's not, hopefully there's not, at least in experiences that I know that a lot of people that I know have had, there aren't necessarily as many barriers to it that you think that there are going to be. You just got to show up. You got to take that first little baby step, and it's not a complicated thing. It can be scary, but it's not a complicated thing. And I just really, 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 truly encourage everybody to do that. And I encourage you to do that throughout the 4 years of a presidential administration. It doesn't just stop because the person, maybe you didn't like either of the, or you didn't love either of the two major candidates, but it was the lesser of two evils, but you chose one over the other. It doesn't just stop when, your preferred candidate wins. This is work. This is work that goes on every moment of every day, and it is complicated. And you have to be patient, but you also have to be involved, and you have to stay involved. So Jackie said it better, but I will amplify that as best I can.
I love that. Thank you, Dan. And if you don't see someone doing something that you feel like needs to be done or said, carve out your own space and do it yourself. And,
Exactly.
And you'll find that it's extremely rewarding and a powerful experience, and will connect you with other people who might agree with you and lead you down a path you never expected. So this week, I would like to
get you a new friend who's going to put you on their bowling team.
And have Hillary Clinton call you for shits and giggles. It's the story of our lives. But, this week I'd like to read Florida, which is following suit with Georgia and passing their own Jim Crow 2.0 laws. Just passed the state Senate today, going before the House in Florida, and Governor DeSantis will likely sign it. And these restrictive anti-voting rights bills are antithetical to democracy. They're racist. They are seeking to legislate Democrats out of office and to keep people of color from having their say at the ballot box. It's atrocious what's happening across the United States. And it needs to be a very prime focus. We need to all be paying attention to what's happening in these Republican state legislatures across the country. And Stacey Abrams appeared before the U.S. Senate on this issue. And Senator from Louisiana, Senator Kennedy tried to catch her on a gotcha question. And this is what she had to say about these restrictive voting rights bills. And we want to close out the episode with a little bit of Stacey Abrams.
Tell me, you're against the Georgia bill, I gather. Is that right?
I'm against certain provisions of it, yes.
Okay, and I think you've called it a racist bill. Am I right?
I think there are provisions of it that are racist, yes.
Okay. Tell me specifically, just give me a list of the provisions that you object to.
It shortens the federal runoff period from 9 weeks to 4 weeks.
Okay.
It restricts the time a voter can request and return an absentee ballot application.
Right.
It requires that a voter have a photo identification or some other form of identification that they're willing to surrender in order to participate in the absentee ballot process.
If I can stop you, that's where they're going to not comparing signatures, but to voter ID?
Yes, sir. And as Ms. Eiffel has pointed out, we would become only the 4th state in the nation to require voters to put at risk their identity.
What else?
It eliminates over 300 hours of Dropbox availability.
Okay, what else?
It bans nearly all out-of-precinct votes.
Bans what? I'm sorry?
It bans nearly all out-of-precinct votes.
Okay.
Meaning that if you get to a precinct and you are in line for 4 hours and you get to the end of the line and you are not there between 5 and 7 p.m.,
okay.
you
What
have
else?
to start all over again.
Is that everything?
No, it is not. No, sir. It restricts the hours of operation because it now, under the guise of setting a standardized timeline, it makes it optional for counties that may be may not want to see expanded access to the right to vote. They can now limit their hours. Instead of those hours being from 7 to 7, they're now from 9 to 5, which may have an effect on voters who cannot vote during business hours during early voting. It limits the voting
Okay, I
hours.
get the idea.
All hail Stacey Abrams. Don't come for her on voting rights. She'll get ya. And she's a shoo-in for governor in 2022 of Georgia. Hey, this has been The Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. I hope you enjoyed the program. If you liked this broadcast, please consider joining Stonewall. For only $25 a year, you can become a member. Visit us at stonewalldems.org/join and find out more about all the amazing advocacy work that we're doing and our candidates and causes. I'd like to thank our guests this week, Rance Collins, Dan Halden, and Jackie Steele. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'd like to also thank Peter Denz, our stage manager. Peter, you're a saint and we love you. Jonathan Welch and Ebony Murphy-Root will be back next week. I'm Alex Mahajer. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on The Redown. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.